Greetings, everyone. This is Payman Lorenzo, your host of the Leads What podcast. They have another wonderful guest for you, my new friend, Carolyn Osborn from Los Angeles, California. And we had a chat, what was it, last week or the week before? Beautiful chat
2 weeks ago, yeah.
2 weeks ago. And wow, that was amazing. And as soon as I started hearing her story, I said, you know what, say no more. Yeah, man, Carolyn, book a time. I want you to come and share your story on my show. And here she is. So a little bit about her. Um, she was born and raised in California from the East Coast. Both parents, musicians, played the violin. She plays the violin and she traveled with groups of musicians. But 12 years ago, she wanted to do something more. She wanted a backup plan. And this is what she's been on a journey. She also always loved animals, especially horses, and always been interested with and connected with holistic body and mind and spirit, and that led her to a path to helping animals and their people. So now she's doing exciting things. She's hosting an event this weekend. She's going to tell us about it in a moment. So yeah, she's some of the things that really stood out when I talked to her is that she's helping adopted animals release all traumas before joining the new families, and so also she's helped animals about to cross over into the next journey of the uh, path in the journey. So a lot of good things, and I'm very excited to have her come share her story. So without any further ado, Carolyn, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you. I really appreciate being here. It's such an honor.
Pleasure's all mine. So first of all, for people who don't know you, sure, we're gonna talk about your business and all that in a moment and your talents. But for people who don't know you, tell us, who's Carolyn as a person, as a human being, as a woman?
Um, I'm a very active person. I travel. I have, like as you said, I'm a violinist, professional violinist, and I have traveled around the world doing different jobs with my violin, different orchestras and different other experiences, which has been the most awesome thing. Um, and just being able to play with amazing artists. I do a lot of work at the Hollywood Bowl here in Los Angeles. Most people have some idea of what that is. It's one of the greatest outdoor venues. And so I get the opportunity to work with a lot of great artists, which is just really fabulous to be on the same stage with them, such as like Earth, Wind, and Fire, John Denver back in the days before he died. Who, I mean, I can't even remember all of them, but it's amazing to have that experience. And my musical life and experience has been very blessed and very awesome. And I come from a great family. Like you said, both my parents were musicians and they were very supportive, which was wonderful. And I have a great sister. And I have now been married for the last 13 years to the most wonderful man in the world. He's also a musician, but he's
What a
also very much,
surprise.
I know, surprise. He's a bass player. And we met on a job, of course.
That's how it
And but
goes.
yes, it's how it goes. But yet he's also very spiritually involved. So we have a lot in common. And it's been wonderful to share all those different things. And he's been very supportive of this healing journey that I've been on and doing all this with the animals. And I'm so blessed. And for me, it's just, life is a journey and it's just always about learning. I love learning new things. I love it growing and expanding. So hence why now I'm starting a new career doing this energy business, it's exciting. So I'm
Beautiful.
really thrilled at the options and the possibilities and what it has to offer for people and their animals both.
Absolutely. This is very beautiful as a business because you're doing something to really to the most amazing creatures in the world, which are our pets, our animals. They're the most innocent, the most loving. They say they're probably the most purest form of unconditional love you get outside of your mother is from your pet, especially from your dog and other animals. The way they look at you, maybe less with cats, or maybe it's me, they don't connect with
They
me.
do it, they do it,
You
they do
know?
it, but in their own way. It's a very
Yes.
different kind of dynamic, but yet they there. And
Mhm.
just to support what you're just saying is animals are all about unconditional love.
Mm,
regardless of the breed, regardless of the species. And it's their job to help get us to be more in that space and to learn to find that unconditional love, which human beings have, it's been a little challenging for us. Um, we still haven't quite figured that one out, but we have the animals that are here to help and guide us to learn that and experience that. And they are helping us on that journey.
indeed. And animals, I see them as angels, as a gift from the God. Just like children, when they come in a family, the gifts from God, the angels. Same
Yes.
thing for animals.
Yes, very definitely. They are angels in disguise.
Yeah.
And the right ones find us. I've always, I
Yes.
tell people we do not find our pets or our animals. They
Wow.
find us, and that the right one finds us, even though it might be a challenging situation. It is usually the best animal for us at any given moment. And so we have to be very grateful and very honored that they have chosen us to come and help us and be with us.
That is so true. My oldest sister, they got a Labrador slash Golden Retriever
Mhm.
3 years ago. And she and her husband were looking for a dog for months. She couldn't find any that can really connect. And as soon as my sister saw this dog, his name is Leo, and just like they knew that they belonged to each other.
Mhm.
They
Mhm.
have the same personality. Now is a massive big boy, but in three
Mhm.
years that I've known that we've had them, I can count on one hand the number of times he barked.
Yep.
And for a big boy like this, very imposing, he's the sweetest. If dogs could be compared to teddy bears, it'd be the sweetest teddy bear ever.
They're amazing, amazing beings.
Oh yeah. I used to not like dogs, but this guy completely stole my heart. And whenever I call my sister, the first thing I ask, I don't even ask before even asking how's your husband, how's Leo?
And anybody who has pets and anybody who has animals, you think more about the animals than you do the people in your life.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Love this conversation. Let's start. So to starting off, what I like to do is to ask a series of rapid fire questions to further get to know you as a person. Ready?
Okay. Okay.
So what makes you happy as a person?
Being able to learn, to explore, uh, riding a horse for me has always been one of my happy places.
Oh
And
yes.
being able to get out there and have that freedom and being, just one-on-one with the horse. And it's just that connection is
Mm,
amazing.
indeed.
And that I love.
Love that. What makes you smile?
Good humor and the little joys in life. I'm really learning on my spiritual path and quest all the little things that really people don't see anymore. It's like you overlook, and it's like you look and it's like they can really bring you great joy if you just notice them. They're all
Mm.
around us at all times. And like that, just the animals, certain animals, and they do something and it's like, yeah, that's great.
I can see that you love animals, but what is your favorite animal?
The horse.
Why?
I don't know. I have been a horse crazy person since I was a kid. I had wanted a horse since I was a kid. I was everything about horses. I had all the horse dolls. I read all the horse books. I
Ponies.
everything. And I think, I don't know if your audience is open to past lives, but I think I was very connected with many in many past lives
Oh
before.
yes.
And there's that bond and that connection. And um, it just completes me in a way that's hard to explain. It's me, that's what I love.
Do you think you were a horse in the past life? And maybe do you want to be a horse in a future life?
I would be honored to be a horse in a future life. I think it would be um, a most amazing experience.
And the right conditions, obviously, you know.
Yes, under the right conditions, of course, but yes,
Awesome. Now, let's take the happiness factors a couple of notches higher. What makes your soul set on fire? What makes your heart sing?
one of the reasons I love the energy work that I do is it connects everything.
Mhm.
Connects us physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Everything's interrelated. And so when you start to look at things from that perspective and that bigger perspective, it's just so fascinating how it all just comes together.
Mm.
And nothing is insignificant, nothing is unimportant. Everything, there are no accidents, right? There's no coincidences. Everything is there
Mhm.
for a purpose. We don't always see it and we don't always understand it, but just being able to be open to that. And I love it when things sort of come together and it's like, oh, okay, now I can see the whole picture of what's
Oh,
going on. And it's like a giant puzzle in a way. And when you start to see the pieces come together and then it all makes sense.
absolutely. That's something I realized and understood myself. Everything happens for you, not to you. Whatever you do now is preparing you for your next phase. Whatever
Right.
you did now was a result of what prepared you to be where you are and what you are now. Once I
Right.
understood that, that made so much more sense to me.
Yes, it does. And we're all pieces of all different experiences. Now, again,
Oh
if we go
yes.
back to the past lives and our past things, we've learned all these different things, but we can still utilize that. It's still a part of us.
Mhm.
We may not be totally who we are in this life, but we still have that memory and we still have that connection, and we can utilize that as a strength and support that. So that's how you can turn things around to be a positive and to be beneficial for you in this life.
You mentioned
Or
past life. That's a topic that I'm incredibly fascinated by. Are you a hypnotherapist?
I'm not a hypnotherapist, no.
Okay, wonderful. That's okay. That's a topic that completely fascinates me, and I'm
Mhm.
even thinking of taking the hypnotherapy training for myself just for my own curiosity because it's
Right.
absolutely incredibly fascinating.
It
Awesome.
is.
Now, we talked about happiness and all that. Now, on the other side of the coin, what makes you sad and angry?
Ignorance, fear, anger, people shutting themselves off to who they really are and what they really are. Um, uh, fear is one of those things that shuts us down and
Mm.
cuts off us back from source, cuts us off from source. Whatever you want to call it, God consciousness, God goddess, all that is. When you're in that state of fear, the ego is taking over. And the ego does not have our best lives, our best things in its
Oh,
best
yeah.
interest. So it's all about seeing beyond that and feeling and trusting yourself,
Hmm.
trusting that you know more than you think you do. Um, and that you can handle anything if you give yourself that space to do it and trust yourself to do that. And it's
Indeed.
not easy, and I'm not saying it's easy, and
I
I'm not
know.
saying it's nice, but it can be done, and a lot of people do it. And they're all the ones that say, gosh, once you get through all of that, the rewards are amazing, and
Absolutely.
and the growth is amazing. It's all about growing and learning. And
Yeah,
when on the spiritual path, it's not about what you're getting, but where you're going spiritually and growing and just getting that reconnection with that consciousness of who you really are.
absolutely. Just like you said exactly the words I wanted to say. Let's say you want to make $1 million. The real reward is not the $1 million, even though that's beautiful, that helps. The real
Right.
gift is the person you become in the process. That's something that's
Mhm.
invaluable and nobody can take away. You know?
Right. And it's not the money that makes you happy either.
No, absolutely not. No, absolutely. I've experienced that firsthand. Absolutely. Yes.
Mhm.
Awesome. Now, what scares you?
What scares me?
Other than spiders.
Other than spiders, I'm just trying to think. What scares me? Okay, this has been sort of one of my lessons for this life is being good enough. So not
Oh,
being
yeah.
good enough. And that perfection piece, that's been a big part for me. And so for me to let that go and to trust that I am, and it's very scary. It's also, we talk about spirituality, we talk about all these things, but then it's like, okay, is it really there? There's that little piece of you that kind of doubts it. So um what scares me? And also just not knowing, that not
Mm,
knowing is scary. That's always the hardest thing when you don't know something and you're just awash. I
mm,
mean, I went through a phase about 2 years ago where I literally felt like I was in the desert and I was just treading water and I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where I was going. And it's like,
yeah.
what do I do? And
That's-
sometimes it's not about the doing, it's about the being, and just wait it out and trust the process. And that was kind of scary. It was really scary to let go of that control
mhm.
and let go of yeah.
I'm with you, absolutely. Especially when you're at a crossroad, you have to make one big decision, two or three different options. You wonder, what the hell do I do? What the hell you do? And nobody can really guide you because ultimately you have to go inside, find the answers inside. Sure, people can give you their feedback, their opinion, all that, but ultimately it's your call. And
Right.
the ultimate answers comes when you can connect with yourself, with your soul, to meditation, to whatever, and that's how you get it. Yes, and
Yep.
and even bigger, listening to that voice in your head because that voice is your
Yep.
soul, and your soul has two
Exactly.
purposes: keep you safe,
Live
protect
it.
you, and alive, and guide you to the next phase of your journey.
Exactly. And it's no straight line on the journey. That much I've
Oh
learned.
no, oh no, oh no. But do you really want it to be straight line? Wouldn't it be boring
No.
if it was straight
Yes,
line?
it would be boring. It would be easier sometimes. And it always pops up when you least expect it. When you finally feel like I've got this going and it's going and then off you go in a different
Wait a
direction.
second, buckle up, sweetie. I know. Now, what would you say is your number one personal superpower?
Oh, I don't know. What is my superpower? Um, I don't know. That's a good question. What's my superpower? Um, I like to think of myself as intuitive and being able to connect and to see beneath the surface, to see what's really going on so that I can help my clients, animal or people, and to help them see the truth of what is going on.
Mm,
So that's what it is, because it's not always obvious, it's not always clear, and kind of being able to connect the dots, being able to help people see the bigger picture and to help connect the dots
love
so
that.
they have a better understanding.
Love that. Now, you love traveling, do you?
I do.
We can do an entire episode just on traveling, but I'd like to take you down a different type of traveling, down memory line. Go back to when
Okay.
you're growing up. When we're kids, people around us, family, relatives, neighbors, teachers, friends always ask us, "Hey, Carolyn, what do you want to become when you grow up?" What was your answer as a little girl to that question?
Uh wanted to be a musician. Well, yes,
Wow.
I did. I wanted to be a musician. I started when I was 4,
Wow.
playing violin. So I didn't really have a lot of choice at the exact time. It was sort of like, I only remember ever playing the violin, basically.
Mm,
Um, and I kind of grew into it and loved it. But then it was like, yeah, I love this. I love the music. I love the connection. The beauty of performing live music, especially I do a lot with orchestral playing, classical playing. So with large groups, but also some chamber music and smaller things, but it's the orchestral. And having that sound and being in the middle of a giant creation that's happening as you go, and being able to ride that wave. It's unbelievable. And I've had a handful of experiences doing that where all of a sudden I'm playing, I'm doing my job, but then it's like I've sort of detached, and I'm literally just writing and it's happening. And I'm not like right in the middle. I'm not there anymore. And it's taken on a life of its own. And this whole
mm,
creation is just, it's that, talk about a high. It's unbelievable.
mhm.
And it's not something you can um, predict or know is going to happen. But there's something about being in the music and the experience of it, and just feeling that in your body and being surrounded by that when it's good. It's amazing.
Indeed. Indeed. Beautiful. What was your relationship with school growing up? Did you love it or did you hate it?
Um, I can't say I loved it. I put up with it. I was the type that wanted to get through it sooner than I was able to. I was the type that I was in high school, and if I could have graduated early, I would have been the perfect candidate for that, but they didn't have it. I was ready to go on. I wanted to get to music school. I wanted to start learning. I do like school when it's what I want to learn, you know?
Mhm.
So it depends on the school, kind of the situation. Um, some of it was a better experience than other parts of it were.
So I guess your favorite subject was music?
Um, yes, but actually in high school there was no music in the school. The subjects I really loved were history.
Mm.
I loved history. I kind of like politics. Now I'm sort of like, I'm not so much. Anyway, that's another story.
Oh, yes.
But I love history. I used to read historical novels. I would just
Mm.
eat those up. Even today, I love reading about history. I think it's so important. It really is so relevant. Um, in certain eras, would feel more familiar than others. Um, and it was so cool to experience. And a lot of like biographical or historical biographies,
Mm.
just reading about famous people and their, where they coming from, and just learning about that was always really fascinating to me. I was an avid reader when I was a kid. I was just constantly reading and learning from that perspective.
So which
And
era did you resonate the most in
hmm,
history?
hmm, I kind of like I liked um like Vincent van Gogh,
Mm.
Michelangelo, that whole era, all those artists and all of those people were just so, Leonardo da Vinci, all of that era of where things were they were exploring and coming, and there was just such a rich time of the arts and experiences and what they were learning and what they were expressing. And we just don't have that these days, really, not in the same way. It's there, but it's much more commercial, shall we say. So
Wow. And was there any subject that you did not like at all?
math for me got to a point where it's kind of like, okay, I can deal with math, but then it's like, okay, this is not relevant to my life. My sister, on the other hand, has the mathematical mind, and she's the math person in the family. So I didn't feel like I had to travel that path.
Mhm. Okay. So imagine that we're in the same class, say in grade 10, 11. What kind of student were you? Were you the quiet, the shy, the nerdy, the superstar, the chatterbox, the party girl?
It was always a little bit of the rebel.
Mm,
I have never been one for cliques and being in the in group or doing any of that kind of stuff. Was never my thing. Even to this day, I travel my own path. I would have fewer friends but closer friends. I didn't have a lot of, like
mhm,
masses of friends. And most of my friends were musically inclined, one way or another, generally speaking, just because it was a different language.
mm,
And in high school in particular, especially the high school I went to where there was no arts and no music, they did not get it at all. I mean,
mm.
it was just like over their heads. And they didn't understand the
Yeah,
whole concept or what it was. So I had to I was doing youth orchestras and other experiences with other people in the music field, and so that's where I met most of my good friends.
makes
But
sense.
I was okay in high school. I mean, I participated, but I was sort of, like I said, I was kind of the rebel, and I just, I did what I had to do. I just was trying to
Yeah.
get through it as quick as possible. It's like, this is a waste of my time. Let me get out of here.
So when you were in school, were you popular with the boys?
Not really. A little bit, but not really. More
Okay.
so than my sister, but not as much.
Also, what, sorry?
I I was more popular with the boys than my sister was. She did not have that. So I did have some of that, but it was
Mm,
but I was not into like the jocks and all of that, those kinds of people and the nerds. It's just that wasn't me at all. So I liked it. I like the more artistic
mm.
versions.
What was your very first job? And do you remember how much you get paid the first time you worked?
My first job was an orchestra job,
Wow.
and what did I get paid? I don't even remember. Probably $100 or a couple $100 or something like that.
For how long? Per day, per month, per week,
The way it works is there's like
per gig?
yeah, it's like per the gig, the total gig. So
Mm.
usually like 4 rehearsals in a concert or something like that. And so you get paid for the whole gig.
How long is the concert?
The concerts are usually anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours long with a break in
Okay.
there. The rehearsals are about 2.5 hours long.
Mm.
Uh, so you're talking, a total of about 10 hours of time. And yeah, so I mean, that's what I was trained to do, and that's what I was doing. And I just kind of moved right into it
Mm.
and was lucky. I was very lucky that I was able to start. And once I went to music school, got my degree. So I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in
Wow.
violin performance. And took lots of auditions, and then I won the audition in the San Diego Symphony, so I was down there for like 3 years. And then I moved back to Los Angeles, and I'm in several of the kind of what we call the smaller orchestras. So it's not like the LA Philharmonic, which is a full-time job. These are
Mhm.
like community / professional orchestras that
Yeah.
have about 7 or 8 concerts a year. And so I have auditioned for many of those, and those I'm still members of. I'm concertmaster of at least 3 orchestras,
Wow.
which, if you know violin speak, that means you're the head violinist, you're the important one. And I love that, but then I'm in orchestras where I'm sitting in the back. So it doesn't really matter. It's where it all is about creating the music and doing different experiences. And so
Wow.
what I call is I freelance, and I work all over town. I drive all over Los Angeles, Southern California, to lots of different gigs. I also do movie soundtracks,
Oh,
TV,
wow.
and it was, part of the recording industry, and doing, things like that. So as a freelancer, it's whatever comes up, and wherever it is, you go.
Indeed. Wow. Violin, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So when you were growing up in a family where both your parents were musicians, your father was a violinist, so it's pretty much
No,
natural.
he was a conductor, clarinetist conductor.
Ah,
My mother was the violinist.
okay, so it's pretty much natural for you to walk in the footsteps and get the violin. So was the violin one of the first gifts your parents gave you as a young girl?
Pretty much, yes.
Well, you're born with one, eh?
I was. I mean, when you're a kid, you start with small ones.
Yes,
They
yes.
have like quarter size, half size, 3/4 size, and then finally when you're, like by the time you get to high school or you get big enough, then you can graduate into a full size, and then that's where you stay.
Yeah.
And and luckily my mom, being a violinist, she was still playing and performing. And so she had bought a fiddle for herself, and then she bought another one, which she kind of was hoping she'd give to me. So she gave one to me by the time I was in, junior high school.
Mm.
That became mine.
So in your career as a professional violinist, have you had the pleasure of, I don't know if it's the word, playing or performing with one of those, the super rare ones? I think it's called Stradivarius, isn't
I
it?
have not played a Strad, but the violin I have is from the same
Ah,
period as the Stradivarius. It's Italian,
mm-hmm.
made in 1750, and it's of that same vintage. Stradivarius is a very well-known instrument. There are several of them. I know several of my colleagues who I work with who do have one, and they do play with them. It's way out of my price range.
Yes. So have you noticed a difference in terms of the sound, the quality of the sound between a Stradivarius
Sometimes,
and a normal violin?
um, how when you're buying different cars and everybody has a different
Sure.
reaction to the
Yeah.
car, it's the same thing with the violin. Just because it's a Stradivarius doesn't mean it's the right fit for me and it's the right sound for me. So even though and some of the Stradivari instruments are, in my opinion, not maybe as good as some other ones, but they've gotten the name recognition.
So it's like the
And so,
Ferrari of violins, right?
exactly, like everybody knows what a Ferrari is, everybody knows what a Stradivarius is, but there are other ones that are equally good, different. They all have different sound. They all have a different personality. Like I said, the violin I've been playing on was made in 1750.
Wow.
I've been playing that instrument now since 1982. So I've almost been playing that thing for 40 years.
Mm.
And these instruments are very much alive. They have a
Oh, yes.
personality, they have an energy.
You become one with
And
it.
you do, and they go through their little phases of, some days they're cooperative and other days they're feeling a little
Cranky,
cranky.
just like
Exactly.
people.
Exactly. And so, you kind of grow and morph with it. So it's a relationship. You have a relationship with these instruments.
Mm,
especially these string instruments that have been around for so long. And if you've had them for a long time, it is an extension. It's an extension of myself. You know, it sits here and it's part of me.
so
So it's
I've always loved violence. So for someone that's never played it, so let's say I were to dedicate 1 hour, an hour and a half a day, how long would it take for someone like any person, or even me, to be able to play it at a basic level?
it's one of the hardest instruments to learn.
Oh, really? Wow.
It if you have a good ear,
Mm,
meaning you can hear pitches and you can hear distinct different pitches and you're good at clearing
mm-hmm,
that, at registrating with that. If you've got the physical wherewithal to play, because it's physically very challenging because you're in a position that is very unnatural.
mm-hmm,
Um, so once you get past that, which most people, that's where most people get lost. And it would take, as an adult, you know, it could take 3, 4 years easily, just because there's so much to learn. There's a lot of subtlety. There's a lot of technique to learn. And like any skill, there's the foundational aspect that you have to learn first, get all of that and go through the different levels, and then you can get to a point where you can be totally creative and free and do what you want to do, and to do it well. Now I'm saying there are
yes.
people that can get up there and play it and do okay with it, but
Mm,
to do it really well and to do it justice, it takes a long time.
yeah, for sure. You mentioned the unnatural position of the violin like this in your hand, whatever. So there is, yeah, there are instruments in Asia, especially in China and even in Malaysia, even here in Vietnam.
Right.
They have something similar. They put it on a table, you just stand in front of it and you just play it. Why don't you put that way the violin with much more natural as opposed to trying to.
This is a good question. I don't know, but it's sort of morphed into that, and that's just the way. There's a there's a flexibility and you can do much more with it here um than you can. I don't know. That's a good question.
But, but
You're doing two different things with your body. Your right arm's doing one thing and your left arm's doing something else.
but the left hand is
And
kind of limited because you can't really
right,
see
you have
like
to go
this. As
up and
if you
around.
had it on the table in front of you, you could see it properly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could. I don't know. This is a good question. I know when I was doing some teaching and the kids are like, this hurts, this isn't comfortable. I think, I know, it's just one of those things. And that's why I said, if you can't deal with that kind of thing, you're most not likely going to get very far on the violin.
Maybe
You could play
some.
the cello. The cello is down and
Mm,
that's easier to play.
oh yeah.
So you could do the cello.
Maybe way back in the in history, some snob Italian or French in the court of the king wanted to impress the king. And with
Yep,
that, everybody tried to copy up. That's how it stayed there, you know?
yep, definitely.
Wow.
Definitely.
Wow. Awesome. So now moving forward, how would you describe your path from the moment you left school to now? Would you say it was pretty much straightforward, smooth sailing? Once you get into one lane, you were set for life? Was it turns and turns and twists like a roller coaster?
There were turns and twists, definitely. Um, you know, we're always on search for that next gig. Like I said, I did a
Mhm.
lot of auditions, most of which did not pan out. But I'm just, you know, it's all who you know, connecting people, playing for people. Um, like I said, you know, had good connections here in town, and so I ended up staying here. Um, and you know, one thing leads to another, kind of evolves. It's like like I said, the getting to know part of you, the politics of the business kind of creates some of what you're doing. Um, but it was because the business, and I always thought I would play violin until the day I died. That was my belief and that was my intention. But around the mid 2000s, around 2006, 2007, the whole music industry here in town was going through a real rough patch. And it
Mm.
was sort of like, all right, I need to start looking at other options here in case this totally self-destructs, because there was no way of knowing, it was just, and it's very, especially as a freelancer, I don't have any guarantee on work. It comes, it goes, and it's a gig economy, basically. You get from one job to the next. And so there's no guarantees. And so it was at that point that I started entertaining the idea of exploring other options. And that's when I connected with this energy work. I had a chiropractor who I was really close with, and she had started doing some of this. And she introduced me to a class and to a certain system. And for me, it was like the light bulb went on, and it really resonated, because it was like finally a way for me to bring my whole holistic beliefs together on a level that I'd always been interested in, but had never been able to incorporate all of this stuff together. And it's like, I knew it was all possible and it was there and it's interrelated, but I hadn't been able to like see it actually in a form of something that was concrete.
Wow.
And this class was like, all of a sudden it's like, yeah, this is, it's, when basically the body has the ability to heal, the body knows what it
Mm.
has to do, but there's so much disruption in the communication in the body due to stress, due to anxiety, due to accidents, due to, crises, one thing or another. And that's when the body starts to get out of alignment and out of sync. And that's when illnesses start popping up, or,
Mm.
so all these things are the beginning of this. So this first class I took was like, this was a self-care system, like something I could do on myself, to do a general balancing of all my meridians and my organs, my nervous system, and just enough to help kind of get the general balance back. So the body was like, okay, let's rearrange and, put that together. And the thing was that they mentioned was, okay, this is great for yourself, for your family, and your animals. And I went, oh, that's it. That's it. That's it. That's
Mm.
what I want to do. So that was the beginning of this journey that I'm now on. And that has led me doing several different modalities. I'm still learning. I'm still, following that path of whatever comes up. And to me, it's amazing how I reach a certain point and then the next teacher presents itself and the next system presents
Absolutely.
itself with that. So that's what I have been following. So I'm following my instincts on that level of just where I'm going. And it's been quite a journey. And all I can say is the animals love it. They really gravitate to it. They get it. And they want their people to get it too. So, and for me, the part for me that's different than a lot of people is, I'm starting to work with the animal and the person, because as we talked
Mm.
earlier, the animal's here to help their person. The animal's here to teach or to
Absolutely.
guide their person, but they're also here to bring to that person the tension, what's going
Mm.
on within themselves and what needs to be cleared or healed within themselves. Old beliefs, old patterns, old experiences. And so it's the animal that is the teacher and trying to say, okay,
Mm.
become aware of this, what is going on, and make these subtle shifts, and then they'll both heal. Then they'll both be much happier. So this is where I'm at, and this is a kind of a newer way of approaching healing, especially with the animals, So the animals are, and and I do animal communication. So I'm talking to the
Wow.
animals and they're telling me what's going on and what to look for in the person. So then it's a matter of saying, okay, let's address, what happened to you when you were a kid? What was going on? And what, you know, experience did you have that sort of got stuck in your body mind that now needs to be let go so that you can be free of that to move forward and live a happier, stronger life.
Fascinating. So a question came to mind as you were talking. is there like a rule of thumb as to say what each animal, for example, specializes in a specific area, specific part of lesson for you to learn, or that really depends on each person and what is the soul contract and what is the decide. So there's no like for, if you want to heal, for example, this, you go get this animal. It's
No,
not
no,
like
no.
it's
No,
not like
each
a
animal has a
okay.
specific soul contract with you. The
Mm,
animals find you. Um,
that's true. Yeah.
if you wanna go into that bigger picture, we as souls up in our thing, before we
Yes.
come down to this world, we make agreements of
Yes.
what we're gonna learn, what we're gonna experience.
We
The
should like the
animals will,
actors. Yes.
yes,
Hmm.
we're actors in the play, and we've kind of agreed to this, and then they will come to us at certain times in our life, a specific animal, but you know, whatever it might be, um, to teach us something. It could be very short term, it could be very long term. It doesn't have to be just always that dog you've had for 16 years. It could
Mm,
be something you've had for like a year and suddenly the dog goes, major accident or something. But that's helping that person to address, you know, maybe dealing with death, with loss,
mm,
with the pain that they've, you know, didn't acknowledge from their life. Maybe their father died, you know, very young, or, you know, who knows? I'm making this up as we go right here. But there are all these different situations, um, that if you can look at it from that bigger perspective, helps you to grow and helps you to expand who you are and your experience.
hmm. Wow. Fascinating. So I see here that your life, you have two major passions. One is music, one is animals. So how do you think the two are connected? How do you think each of them supports the other?
It all comes down, first of all life is energy.
Yes.
Music is energy, energy slash frequency.
Yes.
Okay, it's all energy frequency. Um, everything in our world is energy, you know, this computer is energy. It happened to take the shape of this computer, but it's basically an energy. Um, music is energy, and it's what it's conveying. And that's where the person playing the music is conveying an energy through that music. So that's why some people are crying. Some people are like really uncomfortable with it, or some, you know, it may be triggering certain things in them depending on what's being shared through that or what the music is trying to express. You know, composers write music coming from different places. Sometimes it's very angry, sometimes it's very sad, sometimes it's very happy. And so it's the performer's job to try to convey that
Mm,
out. So for me, it's about, you know, I'm still dealing with frequency, I'm still dealing with energy. I'm not incorporating music into my energy work, but I think there's a big overlap of the two.
absolutely. Wow. That's a perfect segue. Let's talk about your business. Tell us about your business.
Okay, so it's called Chiron Energy Medicine. And if you don't know who Chiron is, he is a centaur. Um,
What is
from
a
the
centaur?
what is a centaur is half horse from
Oh,
the
okay, 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 okay,
neck
okay.
down, it's horse, and the head up, it's a human
Yes,
body.
yes, 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 yes. Okay.
So it's half human, half horse.
Mm,
So hence being the horse person I am and the animal person I am, there's a connection there. Plus, Hercules was a teacher of the gods. I mean, Chiron was a teacher of the gods. And so he was actually one of the fathers of holistic medicine. He was a teacher. He was involved with music. So there's a lot of parallels that for me were very resonant.
mm,
His other, and he's also, there's an astrological planet or called Chiron.
really?
And yes, and if you're into astronomy,
Mm-hmm.
today we had this solar eclipse, which is the Earth and sun were conjunct the moon, so it was all in lined up.
Mm-hmm.
And exactly in that alignment was also Chiron. So everything was, all these planets were lined up in one sync. So there's a lot of significance to that energy.
So is
Chiron's
Chiron an ancient name for one of the planets we have in our solar system, or is it a completely different planet from a different system?
no, it's in our system. It's in our system.
Which one is it?
It's between Jupiter and Uranus.
Is
I
it one of the
think.
satellites of Jupiter?
No, it's a separate planet.
Okay, never heard of it before.
Yeah, it only was discovered like in the 1970s, I think, or something was when it was discovered. Look it up. Chiron,
Yeah,
the
I'm
planet.
definitely looking. Yeah, wow. Fascinating.
But anyway, the significance of Chiron is he is the wounded healer. And
Mm,
he's called that because there was an accident in his Greek days when Hercules had an arrow with like special poison on it.
mm,
And he shot the arrow and it caught Chiron in the leg by mistake. And since it was this magic, special kind of magic, Chiron could never heal it. So it was a permanent wound. He lived with this wound until he finally he made an agreement now, and I can't remember, you have to look up the story, with one of the other gods, and he traded places with him, and then he went up into the stars and he became a constellation. There's the Centauri Centaur constellation. That was for him to finally release from his pain, because he was a demigod, so he would never die. So he couldn't die from his wound and he couldn't heal it. So he was stuck. So how that relates to what I do is we all have some sort of deep emotional wound. Usually comes back in childhood or, earlier, or some emotional or physical wound that we carry that we can't quite heal. And so it's about working with that to help release that and to help
mm,
shift that energy in some way so that you're able to move beyond it, move past it. So like I say, Chiron is a very powerful figure. Yeah, you can see him on my little logo there. That's Chiron up there. And for me, it really resonates.
mm.
And I really was like, of course, that's what I'm going to use to represent my business. So anyway, back to my business. So that's how I got into this. So I do energy medicine healing. I do animal communication. I'm also a certified medical intuitive practitioner. And, several other layers of modalities of other things that I go in there. I do all of it by tapping. So if you've heard of the tapping, there is a tapping technique out there in the world, but this one's based on over the head, over the heart, and over the gut, because these are the three brain areas. This is not the only brain we have. We have the head brain, we have the heart brain, and then we have the gut brain. Everybody's talking about the gut biome and the gut. The gut is also, that's your gut instinct, right? That we're talking about. That's the other brain in the body.
Speaking of that, in Indian culture and in Persian culture, the gut, the stomach is called it's referred to as the heart.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you say to someone, wait, was it? They refer not to the heart, but they refer to the stomach, the gut, instead of the heart. In Indian culture and as well as in Persian culture, in
Yeah.
Farsi and Afghanistan, Iran. Yes, I just remember that.
Yeah,
Wow,
so
interesting.
it's very important. It's very significant. Most people aren't aware of that. But so anyway, I tap over the head and the heart and the gut. And that is what, once I identify what needs to be shifted or what needs to be brought to the attention, then I tap, and that allows, the brain is the waking up, the nervous system. The heart is like, okay, we're going to anchor this back in the body and readjust this,
Mm,
redo this in a slightly different way. And the gut, the same thing. And then, so then energetically, now again, we are made up of energy bodies. The physical is the densest body.
mhm,
Then we have the emotional body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. And there's a couple other ones, the causal body, and they go out farther from us. And that creates all of those around us entirely. And that's what we call the aura around us, is that is like the area around us entirely. So everything starts out in the outer field and works its way into the physical. So if you are having, if you're like really stressed and anxious and you don't deal with it, you don't deal, it's working its way through, it's working its way through. And then, you get into a situation at work and you're even more stressed and you can never clear it. Eventually that's going to work its way into the physical body. Then it finds the area that's like the weakest area in the body. And that's where it can take up residence, as it were. I'm a believer that cancer and other major illnesses are all a result of these unexpressed, unresolved emotions that have gotten stuck in the body.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it can also, yes, there's the science part of it and there's other aspects, but it all, again, we are all energy. It all comes from energy. So what I'm doing, kind of as the facilitator, I'm not quote unquote healing anybody. I'm clearing off the extraneous emotions, clearing off the extraneous beliefs, the extraneous debris that we've collected, all the baggage that we've been carrying with us for however long. Once that is released and cleared, the body is then able to then readjust and start its healing process. It knows how to heal. It may go quickly, it may take a while. And like I said, how deep the issue is, it may take a while. Look how long it took you to get to that point. Look how long it took for it to get all those layers to get into the physical body. It's not going to just go poof, necessarily go poof and gone. There's always those possibilities, but you have to undo all of those layers of stuff on top of it, which then can free it. And there can be huge shifts and there can be huge changes. And like I said, this works for the animal and the person. So again, coming back to what the animal is doing. So what I have is what I call my mirror sessions. And this is where the animal is reflecting either the physical, the emotional, or the mental aspects of the person. And so again, by working with the person to say, okay, there's, sometimes the animals will take on, if you had asthma, let's say, and you haven't been able to deal with it, and the animals sometimes will then get asthma or get diabetes. Wow. Or any number of different things that you will notice, heart issues. An animal might have heart issues. Their person might have heart issues. So all of these things.
Wow.
And so it's all integrated. And again, everything about holistic health and holistic everything, it's all interrelated. There are no accidents. There are no coincidences. Everything is connected in one way or another. And the hard part is figuring out that connection and how it relates. And again, every person and animal is different. The situation is different. And all it takes is for the person to be open and willing to give it a shot. They don't necessarily have to quote unquote believe in it. But if they're open and willing to explore and willing to see where this goes and to take a chance, they can have some amazing healings. They can do some amazing things. So getting back to what I do. So I do individual sessions. And this is where I work on this, whatever's appropriate for that day. Sessions are usually every 2 to 4 weeks. So it's spread out, being energy. It takes a little longer for everything to shift and settle again. And then you do the next layer. It's over a period of time. It's a process. So that's primarily what I'm doing. I also just do straight animal communication where I can talk to the animal to find out what's going on, whatever they need to understand. Now within that, as you mentioned earlier, I do a lot with helping people with their animals as they're getting ready to cross over. Again, it's more helping the person to reach a place where they're comfortable to say, I'm ready to let them go. The animals are very often ready, but they're also know their person's not ready. So they're hanging on as long as they can. So it's finding that balance. and realizing that when an animal leaves, they're not gone. They're still with you spiritually, energetically.
Always,
And,
yes.
and for people to realize that now the animal can work with them from the other side. So it's a different kind of relationship. It's a different, it's a change. It's not the same. It's not like having them in your lap, but it's a different dynamic.
Speaking of that, could it be that the animal in this, our pet in this life, could be someone in a previous life, could have been a brother, a mother, and so forth? So can
It's
we
interesting.
reincarnate as animals and vice versa, specifically to teach a specific lesson?
It's
Because
interesting that you asked.
at the base, the soul can be anything it wants, right?
Can be, but I was just I'm doing some studying with a new teacher, and she wrote a whole book on this subject and this topic. And her take is that, first of all, animals again have reached that place of unconditional love, so
Mm.
they are not going to be human. They're above where we are,
Oh, really? Wow.
and so if most likely if we've been with them, we've been a person and they've been it could be a different animal, it could be a different experience, it could be the same breed or a same species, it could be very
Mm.
different. So but yes, I've worked with a lot of clients who I've sensed that the person and the animal have been together many lifetimes.
Fascinating. Wow.
So they do have that.
But they haven't switched roles, eh?
No, I don't think so.
Mm. Because I
But
thought that the soul can be anything it wants, because the soul can
you know,
experience being an elemental, a rock, an animal, a human being, a planet,
you
whatever.
know, I am not definitive on this, and I don't want to be the
Yeah,
definitive
of course,
on
yeah.
this. I kind of thought that too, but I don't know. You
Mm.
know, so I abdicate my definitive status on that. I am not 100% sure, and I'm sure there's a lot of different opinions on that topic. So I
Uh,
am not sure.
Another thing that you said that is very fascinating, you said that animals are much more spiritually higher on a scale than humans. I thought it would be the other way around. Wow. Okay, interesting.
No, and if you look at who are the barbarians and who are the ones that are the beasts in the world, it's not the animals, it's the people.
That's very
You
true.
know, who animals only kill and hurt for food
Mm,
out of defense, um, unless they're ill or sick or something, you know, if something has happened to them and they're scared, that's when they will attack. Um, you know, the animals that have been taught by people to be attack animals, to be fighting animals, to be whatever, that's not the animal's natural inclination. That's the person training them to do that.
mm.
Animals probably don't really want to be doing that, but they have to.
So the animals in the wild, say the lion, the tiger, the bear, when they go and eat other animals, they're just part of their natural.
And they generally take the weakest of the herds. They don't, you
Mm,
know, the, anytime you see wild animals, it's the weakest ones that are the ones that are caught and eaten. And that's a natural way of nature taking care of
natural
population,
selection, yeah.
the natural select, you know, that regard. Um,
But also kind
so
of very cruel too, because it's always the weakest that loses, you know?
well, that's a very human
If you want to look at it from a
mentality.
sentimental perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but again, I did want to bring up the point that this is why it's
Mm,
real. I like to tell people, pay attention to your animals. If you feel like something is wrong,
mm,
pursue it. Don't wait, because animals instinctively hide any illness, will hide anything wrong until they
mm.
absolutely can't. And then that's when suddenly cancer materializes, stage 4 cancer. And it's like, where did that come from? They were fine yesterday, they were playing. Well, they were covering it up, they hide it. They're very good at protecting and hiding any weakness in them. So for me, it's also very important to convey to people to be proactive and preventative. I like people, like if you can do energy medicine 3 or 4 times a year for your animal, you have a much better chance of that animal not getting sick or not having problems because it gets caught before it happens. And you keep the animal in balance so that they're able to heal and function naturally. And then if something does come up, you have a better way of addressing it than waiting until it's in the crisis stage. Because once it's in crisis stage, it's very difficult to really have a full recovery. And then people are
Make,
traumatized and upset. And it's like, you know, the animal has made their choice at that point. You know, they're already where they are.
makes sense. Why would animals hide it if there's anything wrong? Is it
Because
out of survival, or?
yes, it's the survival that a lot of these animals have been prey animals.
Mm,
You know, look at even dogs and cats are attacked by coyotes. We have that problem here in LA a lot. Coyotes are out roaming and they will attack small animals. Even bigger dogs, you know, all of these animals, they have something bigger that can get them. So it's that, again, that instinctive side that they
survival.
have to put
Yeah.
on a brave, healthy front. That's generations and generations and generations of programming.
It's in our DNA. And we
Yep.
humans tend to do that as well sometimes. We hide things. We don't want people to know that we're struggling just to put a strong facade, but deep down you have no idea what's going on underneath.
And that's what the animals are bringing to your attention. Exactly
Mhm.
that. Because we put up all these barriers and put up all these layers and I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine. But underneath you're just like, or you're stressed, or you're just in a state of fear, you're exhausted. But I have to put on a happy face. I have to be good. I have to do all my things. And you don't address what's going on, what's then ultimately eating you up inside. And so
Mm,
that's what I'm saying is what the animals are trying to mirror and try to bring to their person's attention. And it's okay for us to feel, to express that and deal with it. It's better to get it out of the body than have it stuck in the body, because that's when it can do more damage to the body.
wow, makes sense.
And
So
then can I just mention my group event?
please, 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 please.
And so my newest program that I'm doing is called the Chiron Observer Effect. It's group energy healing series for an animal and person. It's all online. And this is where I have people come. I usually have some sort of specific theme that I will address and talk about, but that doesn't have to be the theme that the animals bring. But yet, so we discuss it so that people can understand, you know, whatever the topic is. Like my next topic that's coming up is trauma, and you know why animals are dealing with trauma, how that affects them, what that does to them, whether that's coming, you know, from being abandoned, being abused, being hurt. All of those things can cause trauma in an animal.
Wow.
But anyway, so but people can all come to the group. Being a Chiron observer, that comes from that quantum physics aspect of, as an observer, you are impacting the outcome. I pick the day of the meeting, I pick one animal and person pair who I choose to be the surrogate pair for the entire group. And then I do a session on them, which will of course help them, but it will also help everybody in the group. Whatever energy is appropriate for them, they will take the appropriate healing energy for themselves and their animals as well. And then I usually end with a question and answer. And it gives good people a way to experience this energy work with the support of a group. And you know, you can share this and have a better understanding of, you know, and learn about it and see what it is. And
Beautiful.
my event is coming up April 13th. I have one, and also the next one is May 11th. Both Saturday mornings here in Los Angeles, online, and about an hour and a half. And all of that information is on my website, chironenergymedicine.com.
Love that. Love that. Wow. Wow, that's powerful. So your events will be held once, you said, this coming weekend, and then another one in May.
And I do it once a month. Yeah, I'm doing it once a month.
Mm-hmm. What is your ideal client avatar for your business?
Um, my ideal client is anyone who's fanatical about their animals, whatever it might be. Um, and it can be any type of animal. But these are the people that will do anything for their animals, that really care about their animals and want to support their animals in the best way they can. Obviously, I would like to have people with some holistic and open to alternative approach, because that just helps their understanding and they're better able to support it. But anyone who's open, like I said, and willing to take a chance can learn and experience.
Mm,
And sometimes the proof's in the pudding, once they've experienced it, then it's like, oh, okay, I get this now. It makes sense.
so,
Go ahead.
do you work with clients in person or also online as well?
No, basically it's all online.
Oh, okay.
Only because since I'm working, two reasons. I'm not a veterinarian, and physically working with animals is a different thing, and that's just the legal aspect of that.
Yeah.
And second of all, since it's all energetic work, it works better when they are home in their own environment, where they're safe, they can move around, they can do what they need to do. And they're also, their person's there and they can relax. Because after the session, very often it's like they want to take a nap, both parties. And it just helps, because then that just helps with the shift and the adjustment.
Yeah.
And it works, and it's equally effective. There's no difference between whether it's distance or you're in the same room. But also, it's just the stress level for the animal. It helps not having a new person in the house. I can be in their head and they're like, where is that? What's that voice? Where is it coming from? But I'm not invading their space.
Mm. How are you getting your clients?
Um, Podcasts, networking, referrals, however I can.
Speaking of podcasts, do you have your own podcast yet?
No, I do not.
What is the
It's on,
reason?
it's on the list. It's on the list one of these days. It's definitely on the list, but it's not there yet.
Hopefully before the next lunar solar eclipse in 2040,
Yes, before the
44.
next solar eclipse for sure.
Cool, awesome. Now, share with us an example of the most remarkable transformation you've seen from one of your clients.
Um, okay, one that I just had that was really interesting was, well, okay. I have a client who I was actually going to do a mirror session on. She has two dogs, one which
Mm,
she was really close with, and the other one was just kind of there, but it wasn't as fanatical as the smaller one was. And I was getting ready to do a session on her, and then about 2 days before the first session, I get this phone call from her saying, I don't know what happened, but the two dogs got in a little altercation, and the older dog basically hurt the other one enough that they had to put him down.
oh no.
Yeah. And she was traumatized. The owner was traumatized. And of course, the other dog was just kind of like, what happened? So I ended up doing a session on her first, because she was just a mess. And I was able to connect with the animal that had passed, to help her to understand that he was okay, that he had sort of chosen that and that was okay. That was his way out. Which is again another thing about animals passing, is sometimes they choose how they want to pass, and it's not always the easy, nice way. But they do that to help their person. And in this case, this was helping her to understand her growth and dealing with it. I helped clear her grief enough that she was able to function again, but also to see all the goodness and the positiveness that this dog had brought into her life. Then I was able to say, okay, don't forget your other dog. Your other dog is over there feeling terrible. He kind of knows what he did. He was not happy about it. You've got to repair that and work with him. So she did. She started kind of reconnecting with this other dog. She felt much better. And that whole relationship took on a whole new form. And then I did a couple sessions with her and that other dog, and that has turned things around. Now, in parallel with that, her husband, who had also gone through this whole thing, who was not into this kind of work, saw the transformation in her after my session and was like, I want that. So I did a session on him, and it helped him to also feel much better. So it just got them both in a place where they were more emotionally able to deal with it. Now you're still dealing with grief, and there's always that grief, and it never leaves totally. But it wasn't incapacitating, and there wasn't the guilt and the pain that, that shock and pain that had been there. And it really turned them around, and she's a real believer now, and he is too. I actually did another session on him as well. So it's been really good. It really made a huge difference.
Absolutely. Wow. Powerful. Love that. Now
And then
let's
can I tell you about an animal communication story?
please, please.
So I have a client who had a cat who she lives near a barn, and this cat was bought as a barn cat to take care of the mice around the barn and be the barn. But this cat had other plans in mind and wanted to move up to the house with her and become her house cat. Okay, so she did that, and she kind of moved him in. He was there, and they got used to each other, and everything was good. And then she had to go out of town for a week, and he had not the cat, who's named T'Challa, had not experienced her being away and didn't know what that, she was always there. Suddenly she was gone for a week. Well, he panicked and disappeared, and her kids who were at home couldn't find him. So she called me. It's like, help, what do I do, where is he? So I connected with him, and I said, please go back up to the house, connect with the kids. Your mom is coming back. She had to go away to visit other family. She will be back in a couple of days. Please come back. So the next day, the kids went out and they found the cat. They found T'Challa.
Wow.
Skinny. He hadn't eaten much for a couple of days, but they got him back to the house, and then he was fine. And when she got home, he was a little upset with her, but then he was like, okay, you're back. Then the second part of this story is she was like, she wanted to get another cat, or her kids wanted to get another cat. So they brought in a kitten. And suddenly T'Challa, who had been an only child, was dealing with this other little fur ball that's like all over,
Competition. Not welcomed.
yeah, competition and a lot of energy. And was not happy having this other cat in the house, and was hissing and snarling. And I mean, she had them separated, but when they saw each other, it was not a pretty sight. So I talked to T'Challa again, and I said, okay, you have a new friend. Think of him as a little brother. You need to help him to grow and to teach him and to support him. He's here to help and be company for you, and to be helpful and to be supportive. So we did that. And the next day, she told me, she says, she could see T'Challa watching the kitten. And she said, I could see his brain trying to work it out. And he was like, okay. And he accepted it, and he processed it. And now they're the best of buddies, the two cats.
Oh, so sweet.
So again, this underscores the communication. You need to communicate with your pets, especially if you're going away, if you're moving, if you're taking them somewhere else different, if you're bringing new people into the house, all of these things, or something changes, they're picking up on all of this. They just don't know what it is. So if they're not sure, then it can start to panic them, because it's like, are they going to get rid of me? Is something going to happen? You know, they don't know. They just know something is going on. So it's really important to communicate with them, and then they're like, oh, okay, no problem. And then they're usually good to go with it.
Awesome. Love that. Wow. Powerful. There's so many other questions that comes to mind, but we'll have to save those for next time. Let's start wrapping things up now.
Okay.
To finish, I'd like to ask you another series of rapid fire questions, but this time on advices. First of
Okay.
all, what would you say has been so far the best piece of advice you've received in your life?
Oh goodness. Trust my instincts, trust my gut.
How about the worst piece of advice you've received so far?
Listening to somebody else when that voice is telling you not to.
Yes.
But you kind of get stuck in that position where you have to listen to somebody sometimes when you know that's not the right thing to do. But there you go.
If you were to be blessed with a time machine and go back in time and sit face to face with 18-year-old Carolyn, what's the number one piece of advice you would give to her knowing all that you know now?
Hold on to my intuitive gifts. Hold on to my, they, like a lot of kids, they kind of get pushed aside. They're denied, they're not believed. And I think if I had told myself that this is okay, this is normal, it's not
Mm,
abnormal, and it's okay to have those other things going on.
beautiful. I know you don't have your podcast yet, but imagine you have a podcast, successful podcast today, and today you're interviewing the most special person in the world, and that is yourself. What's the first question you want to ask yourself?
Um, what took me so long to get into this energy business?
And what's your answer?
Uh, I was too busy making music.
It wasn't your time yet.
It wasn't time yet. And I think timing has a big issue to do with it.
Awesome. The last question that I ask, and that's my favorite question to ask, and that is, what is the smallest thing you've done? And by small, I don't mean something small. I mean the one thing you've done that has had the greatest, deepest, most profound transformational impact in both your life and business. For example, for me, it's been starting my podcast. What about you, Carolyn?
Following that little voice in my head to know that this is right and it'll work out.
Absolutely.
And it'll lead me there. May not be the way I want it to and when I want it to, but I have to be patient and trust that it will all happen, because it's all about the timing, the right timing.
Totally. Love that. Love that. If someone wants to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
They can connect with me through my website. So that's Chiron, Chiron, energymedicine.com. They can also reach me at discover@chironenergymedicine.com. I also have LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn with Chiron Energy Medicine, Facebook page, Chiron Energy Medicine, and Instagram, Chiron Energy Medicine. So I can be connected with there.
Okay, sounds good. I'll put that and all of these in the show notes. So listen, Carolyn, absolute pleasure. Blast talking to you. Fascinating story. First of all, the music aspect and then the animals. We can do we can do an entire podcast just on each of them. Fascinating. And there's so many more that we haven't even covered. We're just scratching the surface. We may do a part 2 in the future. But for now, I salute you. You're a true leader with a heart. Keep shining your light. Keep blessing the world, your presence, your impact, your smile, and everything, and your gifts. You're a gift yourself. Stay safe, stay awesome. God bless you, my friend, and talk to you very soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please don't mind. Take care.